Started. All right. Good. So the first thing that you need to do is to enter Moodle, and then you have here the website with Oracle Academy, such that what you should do is to pick one of these accounts where the last digits change, so you can have 01 for the numbers until 99 and use your default password. Now I deselect the last batch. So don't try whether you cannot use, according to the basic account, the basic password, you cannot enter it and it won't ask for you to change the password. Don't try several times because the account will get blocked. So that the advice is that for everything that you do during the lab to also have it stored in some Word file. Okay, so here we enter with the default password. Okay, so this one was taken, it seems to me. Okay, check, let's say it's 99, and we have the default password. Check. Strange. Okay, let's check another one. And the default password. Okay, come on. Let's enter it again. Strange. Enter a new window. And let's choose one. 98. 98. And now it will ask you to change the password, and you put the password that you want to have.
The workspaces are all the same, right?
Yeah, you need to repeat the workspace and the username to be the same. So here you need to have the same thing, workspace
No,
and
yes.
username. Yeah.
What I was asking is between the accounts. I see that the accounts are A, B, etc. They are the same, right?
No, it is the same. It is empty, so they are the same. Doesn't matter. It is just another username, nothing special. Okay. Now what you need to do is to go to SQL Workshop. So you want to have several tables as well as you have to have the records. So you will have to run a script. Here you have the script, which is called SQL schema. And inside the SQL schema, you see that you will drop the tables. So maybe you did some mistakes, you did delete some records which shouldn't have been deleted. And this is the case when you will run again the schema where you have all the tables populated and created. So it means that you drop all the tables and then you can start creating table by table. So for example, you can have the word currencies, meaning that you will have the currency code as being a varchar of 7 characters. You have the currency name, where you have a constraint that you should have the name, and it means that you will have the constraint with word currency as being not null. So you have this double N because it is not null, and you enable this constraint. You also can have some comments for it, as well as you need to specify that you will have the primary key, which is currency underscore code. So it's exactly this one over here. And you make it enable. So what you need to do, okay, it's too big. Okay, you will have to go to SQL Workshop, go to SQL Scripts, okay, and you will have to click on create, or you can upload. So you can upload the SQL schema file, or you can go on create, which will let you add the whole code. Okay, so you will have to go inside SQL schema, you copy paste, okay, and after that you can click on run. Okay. So first thing you go to SQL Workshop, then you go to SQL Scripts, and you will have the option with create, after which you click on Run. Okay, so this is step number 1, SQL Workshop. Then you choose from the drop-down option, you have SQL scripts, which is 2. Okay. Then you will have the option with create, or you have upload to provide the file. And then you will have to add here the code from Moodle. Okay, so you copy paste from Moodle. Okay, and you need to click on Run. Okay. So I will...
there were 38 lines with errors.
Because you don't have what to drop.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, sorry.
All right, so you have the run. You provide the script name. So let's say it's Lab1. Okay, and now you have the option with Run Now. Okay, and it will say that your table does not exist, so you won't have what to drop firstly, but it is all right. And you also have, after that, you will start creating tables, and you have them one by one. Okay, so now you go to SQL Workshop. You have the object browser, and inside the object browser, you can see the structure of all the tables. So what it contains, as well as you will have the data. So it means that you go to SQL Workshop. From the drop down, you have the object browser, and here you can choose the part with employees, such that inside the table you have the structure with the data type, and you can see whether or not it's null. You also have the column names, and data is for recordings. So for seeing it, you first go here, drop down means that you select inside. You have the object browser. You can choose the table employees, which you will be using during the lab. Okay. And then you can visualize the structure of your table with all the columns types. Okay. Primary keys, as well as for data, you have the recordings. Okay. So, all right. Any more signals appear? Just 3. Okay. Okay. So here what you can see in parallel, you have employees. Okay. So when you want to create a table employees, you see that you have employee ID. My employee ID is in fact the primary key. I will just increase it here. So it is the primary key, and you have this one here. Now you can see that it is a number of 6 and 0s. It means that you have 6 digits in total, and they are all placed before comma. As well as you need to have placed this constraint. As you can see, the constraints are placed after saying which are all the columns of your table, and you will have the constraint, and you provide that you have the EMP, you have the abbreviation of your table name, you have ID, and then you have the PK, it's for primary key, saying that employee underscore ID is in fact your primary key for the table employees. And you can also search based on it much faster, so you have an index enabled for it. Then you have the first name. The first name is, as you can see, it is a varchar, so it is like a string of 20 characters. And you can see that it can be null. So it doesn't have this not null at the end, so it accepts null values. Then you have last name. Last name, it's a varchar of 26, 25 characters, and you see that it shouldn't be null. So this is why you place this constraint exactly after the name of the table to have not null values. The email will have 25 characters. It's also not null. Phone number, it's of type varchar 2 of 20 characters, and it also accepts a null value, so you can skip it. Then you have the hire date, which is of type date, okay, and you should place it. You have the job ID, and this job ID is in fact a varchar of type 2 and 10 characters. As you can see, for job ID is in fact a foreign key, meaning that it will be the ID which exists inside the jobs, and it will place it. So if here I go to jobs and I see that for a job, based on the ID, which is the primary key in the case of the jobs table, I have the job title, I have minimum salary, maximum salary, and you get them one by one. So the foreign key, in fact, means that if I go inside employees and I go to data and I have the record. So for 100, I have Stephen King, who has the job ID AD_press. And what I need to, so I don't know, what does this mean? I will have to go to jobs. AD press means in fact the president, and for each and every job that you've got, you have a minimum salary and a maximum salary. So this is what you can find out based on it. Then for my employees in table, I also have salary, which is a number of 8 digits, out of which you have 2 digits after the comma, meaning that you have 6 digits before the comma. Then you have the commission percentage. This commission percentage, you see that you have 2 digits, out of which 2 are placed after the comma. So if I go to data, I see that the commission percentage is, for example, this 0.15. Okay, and this is how you store it. Then you have a manager ID. Manager ID is also of type number of 6 and 0 because a manager is an employee himself. So being a foreign key, it will point towards the primary key of the table employees. And this means that over here you alter the table employees, you say employee manager foreign key, meaning that you add a foreign key, which is manager_ID. And this means that it will reference the employee ID which exists inside employee. Such that you see that for Stephen King, manager ID does not exist, so it means that he is on top hierarchy, after which you see that for Nina, we have the manager with the ID 100. So it means that the manager of Nina is in fact Stephen, who has the employee ID 100. And let's say that we have Jennifer, and Jennifer has the employee, has as a manager, the person who has the ID 101, meaning that her manager is Nina. So this is how you create hierarchies. Okay. Then what you also have is the department ID. Department ID is of type number 4 and 0. Okay, and here in department ID, I see that I have values like 90, 110, and so on, meaning that if I go inside departments, okay, I see that inside the table, I have the same value. So don't forget, when you have a foreign key, the foreign key needs to have the type of your primary key. It's always the same, such that you can store it. And now for my department ID, which was 90 and 110, I find out more about department name, manager ID, the manager of that department, as well as which is the location. So if I go to data and I look at 90, it says executive, and I have the manager with the ID 100, which is Mr. King. and I have a certain location. Again, location is exactly of the same type as the primary key belonging to the table locations which exist inside my database. And 110 belongs to accounting. Then we have bonus. So bonus also means an increase to the salary. Inside employees, inside data, we have this bonus, whether it exists or not. So we have the amount, and it is a varchar too, because maybe I also want to place the currency in front of the sum. Then I want to also have a constraint. I want all the salaries to be positive, meaning that I add a constraint of the abbreviation of my table, which is AMP. Then I wanted to have a constraint for the column, which is salary, and to place the meaning of this constraint to be a minimum and to check if my salary is greater than 0, and I enable it because I want to be used. Also, I want my email to be unique, meaning that I add a constraint for the email which exists inside the table employees, and the index should be enabled such that I can also search according to the email much faster and see exactly on that column where it exists. Okay. All right. Now, when I want to have to query it, you would have to go to SQL Workshop. So it is exactly the green one with this line. Then you go to SQL commands, and you can have the select star from employees, such that you get all the columns that exist inside employees. And you can see that you have column by column. You can even have multiple records that you change from here. You click on run, and you have all of them. What you can do is to also have a save, and you can have Lab1 example 1. Okay, and you save it, and you have it in saved SQL, as well as you have the history to see what you did run and when. Now you see here that you get employee ID, so you have all the columns: employee ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date, and so on. I can also have the select distinct based on job underscore ID, and always it ends with a semicolon, whatever this subquery exists. So you have all the unique job IDs that you have inside the table. Then you can have the select of, for select of star, I get all the columns. What I can do is to have them one by one. So I can have first name, last name, email. So I get all of them in this case. While I can also add, let's say, another column and to say that this is employee salary. And this is called an alias because I change the value that I get by default. So as you can see, if you call first name, it will appear exactly with the identifier that it has. If I want it to be of 2 letters, so it would be like this. You have first name, this is an alias. And what you can do is to add an S, but you can simply skip it. And now first name will be simply changed and it will appear as first and space name. This is one option that you can have, and I will place it in the chat. Okay. Then what you can also have is to concatenate them. And let's say that I want the first name to be concatenated with last name. So I concatenate it with these pipes. I can put a comma or not. Usually you put, let's say it's last name. Then you have my first name, or even without it. And you close it here. You have the pipes, and I want to name this one, let's say it's full name. Okay. So my full name will be King Stephen, and you have them one by one. So and you know that you have the first name, the last name, and the first name, or you can put it just with a separator, and that's it. But maybe you have a composed name, and then you would know that you have two words and so on. Okay, good. Then what else you can have? You can also place a condition where, let's say, salary is greater than 12,000, and you would simply filter it according to it. Okay. As well as you can have an order by. An order by starts by having the columns, which is the position, and let's say order by 3. And if you put order by 3, it means that it does it already in ascending order, so as you have it here. Or you can put it explicitly and to be in descending order according to the third column. So when I put it in this case, it means that I have this one concatenated, it appears here. I have my email and I have the employee salary, which is the alias. Then I do the filtering. So you have this where does the filtering per row. Okay. And for it, you will want to have them ordered according to the column. So it would be according to the third column, which is employee salary. So you start counting the columns from index 1. It is not with the arrays like in Java from 0. You have 1, 2, and this is 3. Or you can put it explicitly and to write salary. So I will also add it here.
Quick question. The saved comments that we are performing, where are being saved? And where
inside saved SQL.
Okay.
So you have it saved. Let's say this is example 2. You see it in saved, but also in history, you see exactly what you did run. So
Okay,
maybe
perfect.
you just skip some part and you don't know from where to find it. But if you go here inside saved SQL and you click, let's say, for the first example, it will be changed here automatically. And you have your script. Okay, good. But you need to run it again in order to obtain the results, okay? Or else they remain the latest results. All right. Then let's see, you have a combination, also having let's see what you were. Okay. So whenever you have the case, you need to specify which columns you select and which aggregate functions you apply. So the aggregate functions that you can apply are sum, min, max, div, and so on. And you take it from a specific table. You can do the filtering per row according to the operator value. You also have the group by according to the column name. So you can group by manager, you can group by department, okay? As well as for them, when you have a group of records, you can also do the filtering based on the group. And this is the case when you specify it inside having. When you want to see the structure of a table, you have describe, but it will get freeze inside the browser, such that you can write the select star of employees, the one which you saw here, and you have column by column. But describe freezes, but in fact the describe is what you see when you go inside the object browser. So when going inside it, so I have it here and I go inside the object browser. I go inside employees and I see that I have the same structure. Then this is what you had with distinct job. You can add an alias where you have two words to be put between quotes. Then you can also have them concatenated and to have one single column, as you did see. Okay, after which you have these exercises. So when you want to do the select of all these, what would you check? You have the select. First of all, when you have a query, you need to select to see what? You have select and from. So you check whether you do have. What should you have initially?
Employees.
Yeah, exactly. You should have first see the table employees, and after having employees, you should check
Column name.
yeah, you get column by column. So do I have last name? Yes, last name exists over here. Do I have job underscore ID? Yes, it exists over here. Do I have salary? Yes, it exists. And I simply add the alias as being cell. So if I take this one and I go to SQL commands and I place it inside and I click on run, I just get all of them. Then if I take the second part and I want to run it, it will say that the from keyword is not placed where it should be. So you have 4 errors over here. So again, what should you do first? You check the table name and its columns. So employees, you have it. Employee ID, you have it. Salary, I mean last name, you have it. Then for cell, do you have cell as a column?
No.
So what should you write?
Salary.
Okay, yeah, you write salary. Good.
Salary as cell.
But you also have an annual salary that you want to compute. So your salary is in fact your monthly salary. And you want to compute the annual salary such that the next mistake is
Annual salary.
which you should write as one.
AS.
Yeah, or you can have this underscore here, or you can put it between quotes. So it's okay. So if you want it to be with a space, you write the quotes. Okay, then what's the next mistake?
Does it have to do with the operator?
Okay, yeah, so the operator should be?
The star, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Multiplication, okay.
And what else is wrong?
The table should be uppercase?
No.
No?
It's case insensitive, so no.
There is just an alias to annual salary. There is no column.
It has it. It has it over here, so it works.
Oh, okay.
You have one more mistake. So now, as you've seen, you run it. Yeah.
Missing a column after last name?
Yeah, so you have the comma, last name, and then you have the salary. And now you obtain your result. So you have annual salary like this, or you can have annual salary like this. And you have the underscore, or you can even type the S and you get your result. But it's the same thing. It is just for writing the alias. So this is the right way to have it. Okay. Then if you want to determine the structure of your table employees, what would you do? Or you write describe but it takes a couple of time and it freezes in this window. Or you go to Object Browser and you just choose the table name. And you see exactly which is the structure. Okay, and you have the types. Or what you can do is to go inside the SQL commands and you have the select star, and then I have from employees. Okay. And I see which are the column names. Okay. If you want to see all your data and to have them separated by a column with a comma and to have it the output, how would you write it?
Sorry, can you say again?
So for the first exercise, if you want to see all data having a comma separator, so between employee ID and you have first name, while you want to name it as the output, what would you place here to concatenate?
Concatenation operator, the double bar.
Yeah, the double bar, and you have comma, and again the double bar. Exactly. So it would be like this, and you would continue with all the other columns. So you would add them one by one. Okay. Good. Okay. So this is the part regarding the first lab. Okay.
Sorry, what are we supposed to upload there?
Just the screenshots and how you did solve them, because here you see that when you run all the queries, you've got here your username and again the username and down again the username and database. So when you create a screenshot and you show the output, it will be seen from which account you did run it.
Okay.
Okay. So I will close the recording for this first lab.